This lesson is on linear regression or line of best fit. And what we're going to do is work through some of these questions in your booklet. We're not going to work through all of them together. You'll work on them with a partner or independently after I go through some of the basics about this linear regression. Now, what you'll notice is that this is the line of best fit. It's not going to be exact. It's going to be pretty close through some data. It's, again, not going to be exact, but when we talk about linear, we are looking for an equation in y equals mx plus b. So we're going to use the term linear regression or line of best fit interchangeably because they mean the same thing. If you don't remember how to put data into a table in the calculator, the steps are listed here for you and a couple of reminders as well. What I'd like for you to do, you have a foldable that has already discussed some keywords that represent slope and keywords that represent the y-intercept. I want you to go ahead and just pick 3 that you normally see, and I want you to add them into this T-chart here. We're actually not going to look at number 1 entirely. I'll walk you through kind of what we're doing, but I really would like to do an example on the next page together. Now, here it asks us to label those x and the y's, and it's kind of just what we're talking about. The x here is temperature, and the y there is swimmers. I'm looking for each of these questions in this booklet. I'm typically looking for that equation and talk about what does the slope mean and what does that intercept mean. You should be able to identify these, but if you need some help figuring out what they mean, that'll be okay. We'll work on that together. Now, there's also a couple of questions. Once I've discovered what that equation is, there's still going to be several parts that you're going to need to use your equation to analyze or to solve for. Okay? Now, I'm going to go to this second page in the booklet, and I want to look at this one down here. Now, we're talking about the relationship between age and the weight gain of a person. The first thing we're going to look at here is this table, and I want you to put it into your edit, stat, and edit, your L1 and L2. Okay, your data should be in there. We're going to go to stat and calc and 4 and enter. If you don't know what buttons I pushed, go back to the front. It lists the steps on how to do this. And now this is about 2. I know it's not going to be exact, and that's about 10. You typically want to round to like the nearest tenth, but both of those are going to give us pretty close. Our linear regression equation is about 2x plus 10. Now, if it was like closer to a half, like 1.5, I wouldn't round that up to 2, but because this is going to be rounded to the nearest tenth, 1.9, that's very close to 2. That's what we're going to use there. So our slope here is 2, and what does it mean? So a lot of these questions ask for the interpretation, so I'm going to do that for this one too. It's 2 pounds gained each X's months. So it's 2 pounds gained each month. Or every month they're alive, they're gaining another 2 pounds. At least that works in younger kids. Hopefully that doesn't work forever. Now our intercept is 10. We know what it is. We're able to identify it, but what it means, think about it. The intercept, it's when x is 0, y is 10. So 0 months, well, that's when you were born. So in this situation, it's 10 pounds weighed at birth. And then you're looking at 2 questions. We're going to call them A and B to use our linear regression equation with these. We're using this to make predictions or to look ahead. So how much does a 22-month-old weigh? So the weigh is the question. So that means I'm looking for weight. So I'm looking for y. Months is given to me, so it's going in for x. Okay, so part A says y equals 2. I'm plugging in 22-month-old plus 10. Well, 2 times 22 is 44, plus 10 is 54, and we're talking about pounds. Okay? And then B is giving us how we're looking how old, so that's months, that's the question mark, is looking for months or maybe even years, is a 42-pound person. So this is giving me that Y, so put it in for Y. 42 equals 2x plus 10. I don't know why I just rewrote that. Minus 10. 32 equals 2x. X equals 16. But again, this is 16 months. Okay, so they're a little over a year old. You should be able to work on the pages 1, this being page 2 and page 3, and even page 4, just doing that same thing. Just doing your best to understand what that slope and intercept are, filling out each part of those equations and those blanks for us. I want to look at this page with this 5 and 6 on it. Now, it's important to realize that I'm not necessarily, hold on, it's going to get fuzzy, and then clear again. I'm not going to always put in this years the way that this is written. It just depends on the context of my question. So now this is essentially the year I'm starting at. So that's like your initial value. That's like your intercept. I'm going to call that year 0. And then I'm looking at every year after that. Okay? So yeah, those are the years, but I'm looking at years since something like that happened. Okay? So that's what I want you to do for number 5. And I also want us to like think about it like this. If I'm looking for the miles she's going to travel in 2014, I'm not going to put in the year 2014. I want to know how many years past 2006 was 2014. However many months later, that number is what I'm plugging in. Okay? So I'm not plugging in 2014. I'm going to plug in that 8 for 8 years later. Same with in this one right here. When I'm plugging in this is going to go in for miles, that's your Y. I'm finding X. X isn't going to give me the year, it's going to be the years since 2006. So I'll take whatever I get for X and add it to 2006. And I want you to put a star and don't worry about B for 5 and 6 here. We're going to do those together, talk about correlation coefficient. We'll do that part together. And then speaking of 6, obviously these months, we're just going to put them in as the months themselves, okay? And again, you should be able to do most of those just by plugging it into the L1 and L2 in your calculator. If you have any questions, please email me and let me know. And we will make sure that we go over all of these together. Go ahead and finish the rest of this booklet with a partner, doing the best that you can.